September 26th, 1983, just past midnight, deep beneath a forest outside Moscow, a siren begins to scream. In a windowless bunker called Serpuko 15, the lights flash red. On the giant screen above the command center, one word burns through the darkness: launch. The computer is certain. 5 missiles. American Minuteman ICBMs, inbound, impact in roughly 23 minutes. The man standing in front of that screen is 44 years old. His name is Stanislav Petrov. He is not a general. He is not a politician. He is a lieutenant colonel, an engineer by training. And tonight, by a strange twist of scheduling, he is the one human being standing between this alarm and the end of the world. 3 weeks earlier, the Soviets shot down a civilian airliner, Korean Airlines flight Doro 07, killing 269 people. The world is screaming at Moscow. NATO is furious. American President Ronald Reagan has just called the Soviet Union an evil empire. Both sides are loading their rhetoric like weapons. Every radar blip feels like it could be the first shot of the war everyone has feared since 1945. And now, in this bunker, the machine says it has begun. Petrov's hands do not shake, not yet. He has 30 seconds, maybe a minute, before protocol demands he pick up the phone and tell his superiors that the United States has launched a nuclear first strike. If he makes that call, the response is almost certainly automatic. Soviet doctrine in 1983 calls for immediate, overwhelming retaliation. There will be no time for second opinions in the Kremlin. There will only be time to launch. He stares at the screen. 5 lights, 5 missiles. The system called Oko the Eye is the most advanced warning network the Soviet Union has ever built. It was designed for exactly this moment. It is not supposed to be wrong. But something feels wrong to Petrov. Not data, not protocol, a feeling. He had been trained as a civilian engineer before joining the military, and that training is screaming at him now. A real American attack, he reasons, would not look like this. The United States, if it struck, would not send 5 missiles, it would send hundreds, even thousands. A full salvo meant to guarantee annihilation of Soviet retaliatory capability. 5 missiles makes no strategic sense. 5 missiles looks like a glitch pretending to be Armageddon. He picks up the internal phone anyway, not to confirm war, but to buy time. He calls ground radar stations, the old slower systems that should be able to independently confirm what the satellites are claiming. Minutes scroll by like hours. Nothing, no ground radar can see what the satellites insist is screaming towards Soviet soil. Then the system updates. It's no longer 5 missiles. Now it says the Soviet Union is under attack by an entire ballistic missile force. The screen reads missile attack in its highest confidence designation. Every protocol, every training manual, every voice in the chain of command above him is built for this exact instant, and every one of them would tell him to report it as real. Petrov does not. He looks at his men, the soldiers around him in that humming, fluorescent lit room, all of them watching him, waiting, terrified. He makes a decision in the space of a heartbeat that will outlive every person in that bunker. He tells his commanding officers it is a false alarm. He does not know this for certain. He cannot know it for certain. He is gambling the most consequential bet in human history on an engineer's instinct and a half-formed feeling that the data in front of him does not add up. If he is wrong, Soviet missiles do not fly and Moscow burns in 20 minutes. If he is right, he has just quietly prevented a war that would have killed hundreds of millions of people, and almost no one will ever know his name. The minutes after his call are the longest of his life. He sits, watching the same screen, waiting for the truth to arrive either as silence or as fire. 23 minutes pass. Nothing happens. No missiles strike Moscow. No mushroom clouds rise over Soviet cities. The radar stays empty. The night stays dark and quiet, and for the first time in nearly half an hour, survivable the cause. Investigators later determine is almost absurdly small for the scale of catastrophe it nearly caused. The Oko satellites had mistaken sunlight, reflecting off high-altitude clouds above North Dakota, for the heat signature of missile launches. A freak alignment of orbit, sun angle and weather had fooled a multi-billion ruble early warning system into seeing missiles that were never there. A trick of the light. That is what almost ended the world. Petrov is not celebrated as a hero. There is no medal, no parade. His superiors are embarrassed by the flaw in their own system, and embarrassment in the Soviet military does not reward the man who exposed it. He is quietly reprimanded for failing to log the incident properly in real time, because he had spent those critical minutes on the phone instead of filling out paperwork that frankly would not have mattered to anyone if he had guessed wrong. He retires from the military a few years later, his role in averting global catastrophe unknown even to most of his own colleagues. The story does not become public until the 1990s, after the Soviet Union itself has ceased to exist, when a retired general publishes a memoir mentioning the false alarm almost as a footnote. It takes years more before the world understands what nearly happened that night and what one man's refusal to follow the machine and the manual actually cost him to do. Petrov, when later asked about that night, never described himself as a hero. He said he was just doing his job. He said any other officer in his position might have made the same call, though history suggests otherwise, because this was not the only false alarm the world has survived by inches. Think about what was actually weighed in those minutes, not abstract geopolitics, not ideology, just a man, a screen, a feeling that the math didn't add up, and the knowledge that being wrong in either direction carried a cost almost too large to comprehend. If he reports a false attack as real, a global nuclear war launched on a lie made of sunlight and clouds. If he reports a real attack as false, Moscow and everyone in it dies without ever knowing why no warning came in time. He chose the version of wrong that gave the world a chance to prove him right. Stanislav Petrov died in 2017, largely unknown outside a small circle of historians and journalists who had tracked down his story. He never asked for recognition. He said simply that he was glad it was him in that chair that night, and not someone who might have trusted the machine a little more and questioned it a little less. In an age increasingly run by systems, sensors, and algorithms, making decisions faster than any human can verify them, his story is not really about the Cold War at all. It's a question we still haven't finished answering. What happens when the machine is certain and a human being is the only thing standing in the way of that certainty becoming catastrophic? On September 26, 1983, the answer was one tired engineer in a bunker, choosing doubt over doctrine, and the rest of us are still here because of it.